We were told TJ had no reflexes, no responses, no brain waves, no brain activity.
Rohrer's family decided to remove TJ from life support. That's when they were told he was a registered organ donor. To honor his wishes, the next 2 days were spent testing TJ's organs to see what was viable.
And during his honor walk, his eyes started opening up, and we kind of, he was tracking, his eyes were tracking, looking around. And we were told, by the ICU supervisor that it was just reflexes, it was just a normal thing.
But that wasn't the case. In fact, he wasn't dead. He was very much alive.
It's a matter of life and death. It's more than frustration. I feel like they were trying to choose my brother. They were going to sacrifice my brother's life to save how many ever other people.
TJ was then taken into the organ retrieval surgery.
A surgical preservation coordinator was on first call for Kentucky Organ Donor Affiliates, or CODA, and was on her way to the OR to take over care. That's when she received a horrifying phone call.
He was then thrashing around, crying, trying to pull his tube out. He was pushing everybody's hands away that were trying to prep and drape him for surgery. And it's kind of crazy, but the doctors decided we're absolutely not going to do this case. The CODA coordinator that was on site that day actually called CODA's admin for some guidance and was told, you will find another surgeon or you'll lose your job because we're going to complete this case.
Probably about an hour into, they come out and got us, and the doctor did, and told us that he wasn't ready, that he had woke up. But we also hadn't been told that during his heart catheterization that morning that he woke up then. And because if we'd have known that, then clearly we would have known he wasn't brain dead.
Rohrer was told to take TJ home and make him comfortable, as he wouldn't live long. Rohrer's been caring for her brother for 3 years now.
It has come to the committee's recent attention that there have been allegations of prospective organ donors, patients, waking up on the way to the operating room where their organs are expected to be removed, and yet they're still not brain dead or still alive. Can you expand on that? Can you tell me, we'll start with you, Dr. Karp, but have you had an experience where this information was brought to your attention?
I'm not aware of this particular case. Of course, it's unbelievable to hear that, but it does happen not infrequently that I, as a transplant surgeon, I also do donor operations, and so I go to a donor hospital, and it's not infrequent that something comes up around the donor and whether or not the donor is dead. And the problem is that we've got 40 years where there has been no oversight at all of the OPOs, and so what that has led to is poor education, poor standard of practice, poorly trained people. And so in a situation like that, you need to know what to do, and people don't know what to do in that situation. Unfortunately, they haven't been trained properly, and those types of problems could lead to something that you have described.
All right. Dr. Cannon.
I've experienced this myself, unfortunately, as a donor surgeon. We went on a procurement. Donor had been declared brain dead. We were actually in the midst of the operation when the anesthetist at the head of the table said they thought the patient breathed, which would essentially negate the declaration of brain death. What Dr. Karp said, no one really knew what to do. The staff on the ground called their administrator, whose recommendation was, I think this is just a brainstem reflex. We recommend you proceed, which of course would have been murder if we had done so. So yes, we closed the patient, we got out of Dodge, and we wanted nothing to do with it. So these things happen, I think.
Did the patient survive?
The patient was ultimately declared later, and they called us 2 days later, and of course we wanted nothing to do with that because we couldn't trust the process.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes, sir. I receive allegations like this with fairly alarming regularity. What I will say, which I think is the biggest statement on the safety of the system, is I know many organ procurement organization coordinators who are no longer registered organ donors themselves because of what they have seen out in the field.
Also heard that there might be a story where somebody actually mouthed the words, "help me," before somebody realized that they weren't a potential donor. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is an allegation I heard recently.
I've also heard allegations that in some cases there may be some medical personnel who don't put down the full story on the paperwork so that it appears to be a classic heart attack, where it might actually be an opioid overdose. Is that accurate?
I've heard that allegation as well, yes.